First contact. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the anomalous readings on her lab screen for the fifth time, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the monitor. The blood sample, her blood sample, shouldn't have been able to do what it was doing. Yet there it was, generating measurable quantities of bioelectric energy even outside her body, defying everything she thought she knew about cellular biology. "Sarah, you need to see this." Dr. James Martinez's voice carried from the observatory deck of Stanford's Medical Research Center. Something in his tone made her push away from her desk immediately. The night sky above the facility blazed with an approaching light, too controlled to be a meteor, too erratic to be a conventional aircraft. Sarah pressed her hands against the reinforced glass, watching as the object carved a path through the atmosphere, its crystalline surface refracting the moonlight in impossible patterns. "Call emergency services," she said, already reaching for her field kit. "That's not going to be a soft landing." The object, clearly some kind of vessel now that it was closer, struck the Earth 3 miles from the facility, carving a trench through the isolated wilderness area that served as a buffer zone around the research center. By the time Sarah reached the impact site in her rugged field vehicle, the wreckage was emanating a soft, pulsing light that made her skin tingle. "Stay back," she called to James as he pulled up in a second vehicle. "We don't know what kind of radiation." She stopped mid-sentence as a section of the crystalline hull became transparent, revealing a humanoid figure slumped inside. The being's skin was translucent, its internal structure resembling a complex lattice of light. Even from outside, Sarah could see the light was dimming, pulsing weaker with each moment. Her medical training kicked in, overriding any fear or hesitation. The hull had a circular seam that looked like it might be an access point. Sarah pressed her hand against it, feeling a slight vibration before the material simply dissolved beneath her touch. The interior of the craft was unlike anything human engineering could produce. Organic crystalline structures flowed into technological components seamlessly. The pilot's restraints had already retracted, as if the ship itself was trying to help. "Hello." Sarah approached carefully, her medical scanner already taking readings. "I'm here to help. Can you understand me?" The being's eyes opened, iridescent orbs that seemed to contain galaxies. "Help others," it managed in perfect English, though Sarah heard the words in her mind rather than with her ears. "Plague. Consuming our light. Ship. Recorded journey. Data. Must reach Council." Sarah's scanner was registering the alien's energy readings dropping precipitously. Without intervention, the being would be dead in minutes. The readings reminded her eerily of her own blood samples, the way they generated and maintained bioelectric fields long after they should have depleted. "You're dying," she said simply. "But I might be able to help. My blood, my biology. It creates sustainable energy fields. If you're compatible." The being's eyes widened. "Impossible. No species, such capability." Its light dimmed further. "Too dangerous. To try." Sarah was already rolling up her sleeve, pulling a sterile collection kit from her bag. "I'm a doctor. Helping is what I do, and my research suggests this could work. Let me try." The alien watched as she drew her own blood, its gaze intense despite its weakening condition. "Why? Help unknown being. Risk. Contamination." "Because that's what humans do," Sarah replied, preparing the transfer apparatus she'd originally designed for her research. "We help. We try impossible things, and sometimes we succeed." The being's voice grew weaker. "If wrong, then I'll face the consequences, but I won't watch you die without trying." She connected her blood sample to what appeared to be a medical port in the alien's crystalline skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the being's internal light pulsed, strengthened, and began to synchronize with the energy pattern her blood was generating. "Extraordinary," the alien whispered, its mental voice growing stronger. "Your life force. Compatible. Better than compatible." "How?" Sarah watched her medical scanner in fascination. "The energy transfer is stabilizing your system. But it's more than that. Your cellular structure is adapting, learning to generate the same kind of sustainable field my blood produces. I am Zenith, the being said, slowly sitting up, Chief Science Officer of the Lumini research vessel Aurora. And you, human, have just demonstrated an ability that could save my entire species. Before Sarah could respond, the night lit up with approaching helicopters. Military helicopters. Her simple rescue operation was about to become much more complicated. Dr. Chen, Zenith's mental voice was urgent now. My people are dying. Billions of lives, an entire civilization, fading away because our natural energy fields can no longer sustain themselves. What you just did, it should not have been possible. Yet it was. Will you help us understand why? The helicopters were getting closer. Sarah could see the unmarked black vehicles approaching on the ground as well. In moments, this site would be locked down, this discovery classified, and any chance of helping an entire species might be lost forever. She looked at Zenith, then at her medical kit, then at the functioning alien spacecraft behind them. Sometimes the most human thing to do wasn't following rules. It was following your conscience. Can this ship still fly? Zenith's internal light pulsed brighter. After your intervention, yes. But your authorities will have to catch us first. Sarah grabbed her medical kit and research tablet. I took an oath to preserve life. I didn't specify which species. As she climbed into the crystalline vessel, Sarah felt a moment of vertigo. Everything she'd worked for, her career, her life on Earth, she was about to leave it all behind. But the readings didn't lie. Something in human biology could save an entire civilization. How could she call herself a doctor, a scientist, or even simply a human being if she ignored that? The ship's hull sealed seamlessly behind her as the first helicopter's spotlight found them. As they lifted off, accelerating faster than any human aircraft could manage, Sarah watched her world fall away beneath her. She'd just made first contact, violated probably a dozen federal laws, and committed herself to saving an alien species. All in all, not bad for a Tuesday night. The decision. The Aurora's bridge was a symphony of crystalline interfaces and flowing light. Sarah watched in fascination as Zenith's luminescent fingers danced across surfaces that responded to touch and fought alike. They had cleared Earth's atmosphere in seconds, and now the blue marble of her home hung below them, heartbreakingly beautiful. Your military vessels are quite persistent, Zenith observed, bringing up a holographic display showing multiple spacecraft launching from secret facilities. Though their propulsion technology is charmingly primitive. Sarah managed a weak smile, trying to ignore the churning in her stomach from the ship's rapid acceleration. They're probably not thrilled about a civilian doctor stealing their first contact opportunity. About that, Zenith turned to face her, internal light pulsing in what she was beginning to recognize as a pattern of concern. While I am grateful for your intervention, I must inform you of certain complications. The holographic display shifted, showing a massive crystalline structure floating in space, a station or city. Sarah couldn't quite tell. This is Luminara Prime, our species' central medical facility. 2 cycles ago, it registered complete system failure. Over 3 million of my people were lost. Sarah felt her breath catch. The plague. We called it the dimming at first. Zenith's mental voice carried notes of deep sorrow. A gradual weakening of our natural energy fields. We thought it was environmental, then evolutionary. By the time we realized it was engineered, it had spread to every Lumini settlement in the galaxy. Engineered. Sarah's scientific mind was already racing. You mean it's artificial? A weapon. The Shadari. Zenith brought up another image, this one showing dark, angular vessels. A species that has long coveted our territories. They created the plague to weaken us gradually, making it appear natural. But your blood. The science officer paused, light patterns shifting to something more intense. The energy pattern your cells generate doesn't just sustain itself. It adapts, evolves, strengthens, something the Shadari never accounted for. Sarah pulled up the data from her medical scanner, comparing it to the ship's readings of Zenith's recovery. The transfer we did was crude, emergency medicine at best. But if we could refine it, create a delivery system that could work on a larger scale, that's the complication. Zenith's lightened slightly. The Shedari have agents throughout this sector. The moment we begin large-scale testing, they will know their plan has failed. They will not allow that to happen. So they'll try to stop us. They will try to eliminate us. You understand what this means. By helping me, you've made yourself a target in an interstellar conflict. Sarah thought of her lab back on Earth, her comfortable life of controlled experiments and peer reviews. Then she thought of 3 million beings, not so different from herself, dying because their very essence was being stripped away. "Show me the plague's infection pattern," she said, stepping closer to the holographic display. "If it's engineered, it has to follow some kind of logic. Maybe if we understand how it breaks down your natural energy fields, we can." The ship's proximity alerts blared. 3 Shidari vessels had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. Speaking of complications, Zenith's mental voice was grim. It seems they were watching Earth more closely than we realized. The Aurora shuddered as enemy fire sliced through space around them. Zenith's fingers flew across the controls, the ship's crystalline structure humming with defensive energy. "Your species," the science officer observed while executing a maneuver that should have been physically impossible, "has a concept called doctor-patient confidentiality." "Yes." Sarah gripped her console as they dove through a field of space debris. "Generally, it doesn't cover running blockades in alien spacecraft. But the principle is the same. You have knowledge that could save lives, and others are trying to prevent you from using it." Zenith's internal light pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Besides, I've analyzed your biology further. Your capacity for adrenaline production is quite remarkable." The ship corkscrewed through a barrage of energy weapons, each near miss making Sarah's heart race. But underneath the fear was something else. Excitement. This was science with real stakes, medicine that could save not just individuals but an entire civilization. "The Shadari ships are faster," Zenith reported, "but they can't match our maneuverability. If we can reach the Callisto Deep Space Array, we can transmit our findings to the Lumini High Council. Even if they catch us, the data would be safe." "How long?" "At maximum speed, 4 of your Earth hours, but we'll be under constant attack." Sarah pulled up her research data, fingers flying across the crystalline interface that somehow knew exactly what she wanted to do. "Then we have 4 hours to solve this puzzle. The plague targets your natural energy production, right? But my blood did more than just give you energy. It taught your cells a new way to generate it." She began correlating data points, watching patterns emerge in the holographic display. Chemical markers, energy signatures, cellular adaptation rates. It was like a cosmic jigsaw puzzle with lives hanging on every piece. "Your species," Zenith noted while executing another impossible maneuver, "has a remarkable capacity for focusing on complex problems while under extreme stress. You should see me during grant proposal season," Sarah muttered, deep in the flow of analysis. The ship rattled with another near miss, but she barely noticed. She was seeing something in the data, something beautiful and terrible, and absolutely crucial. "Zenith," she looked up from her calculations, "I think I know why the Shidari are so desperate to stop us. It's not just that human blood can save the Lumini. It's that once exposed to human bioelectric patterns, your cells don't just heal, they become immune to the plague entirely. We're not just a cure. We're their worst nightmare." The science officer's light pulsed with sudden understanding. A species they never accounted for, with biology that doesn't just resist their weapon, but renders it obsolete. Another blast rocked the ship. "No wonder they're so determined to stop us." Sarah grinned, running on a combination of adrenaline and scientific excitement. "Well then, let's give them something worth chasing. You keep us alive for 4 hours, and I'll have a working prototype for large-scale energy transfer ready to transmit. Deal. Zenith's answering pulse was bright enough to illuminate the entire bridge. Dr. Chen, I believe this may be the beginning of a fascinating scientific partnership. As they raced through the void with death on their heels, Sarah felt more alive than she ever had in her safe, predictable lab. She was about to revolutionize two species' understanding of biology, possibly prevent an interstellar war, and all it had taken was one simple human decision: choosing to help someone in need. The Shattery were about to learn a lesson that countless others throughout human history had learned the hard way. Never bet against human ingenuity under pressure. Journey to the stars. The Callisto Deep Space Array was a graveyard. Sarah stood at the Aurora's viewport, staring at the wreckage of the massive communication station. Crystalline shards drifted in the void, each one catching Jupiter's distant light like tears in space. The Shattery reached it first. Zenith's mental voice was heavy with resignation. They're truly willing to destroy anything that might help us spread word of the cure. Sarah's hand tightened on her tablet, where 4 hours of breakthrough research waited to be transmitted. How many Lumini were stationed here? None, thankfully. This was an automated relay point. Zenith's internal light flickered with growing concern. But this presents a significant problem. The next viable transmission point is in the Proxima Centauri system, and we're running dangerously low on energy reserves. The ship's holographic displays showed they're pursuing Shattery vessels, regrouping, joining with reinforcements. Soon, they would be hopelessly outnumbered. What about my blood? Sarah was already reaching for her medical kit. Another transfer cold would kill you, Zenith interrupted firmly. Your previous donation is still regenerating. Humans may be remarkable, but you're not infinite energy sources. Sarah ran her fingers through her dark hair, frustration warring with exhaustion. They were so close to a solution. Her research proved that human bioelectric patterns could not only cure the dimming but prevent it entirely. The Lumini could be saved if they could just get the word out. A warning alert flashed across the ship's controls. More Shattery vessels approaching from the outer system, Zenith reported. They're attempting to box us in. Sarah studied the tactical display, her scientific mind racing. The Shattery ships were forming a three-dimensional net, using Jupiter's gravity to their advantage. But something about their pattern. Zenith, you said your people's natural energy fields resonate with certain wavelengths, right? That's how the plague works, disrupting those resonances. Correct. Why? Because the Shattery ships are using the same principle in their formation. Look at their positioning. It's not just tactical, it's harmonic. They're trying to create a disruption field large enough to disable us. Zenith's light pulsed with sudden understanding, which means their own ships must be generating a counter-frequency to protect themselves. The science officer's fingers danced across the crystalline controls. If we could match that frequency, we could pass right through their blockade. Sarah finished, already plugging variables into her tablet. Their own defense could be their weakness. The calculations would have to be perfect, Zenith cautioned. A fractional error would tear the Aurora apart. Sarah smiled grimly. Good thing you have a human aboard. We specialize in impossible calculations under pressure. She began transferring data from her tablet to the ship's systems. The Shattery based their plague on Lumini biology, but they never considered how human energy patterns might interact with it. The same principle applies here. The enemy ships were closing in, their energy weapons charging. Sarah's fingers flew across her interface, combining her research on human bioelectric fields with the ship's data on Shattery technology. Numbers and patterns danced through her mind as she sought the perfect resonance frequency. They're preparing to fire, Zenith warned. Whatever you're planning. Almost there. Your people perceive energy fields differently than humans do. We see patterns where you see harmonics, structures where you see flows. Her tablet chimed with a completed calculation. There, the Shattery defense field oscillates at exactly 4.7 terahertz. If we modulate our shield's toe, matched their frequency, but phase shifted by exactly 1/2 cycle. Zenith finished, light pulsing with excitement, using their own protection to create a tunnel through their blockade. Dr. Chen, that's basic wave physics. Sarah grinned. Sometimes the oldest principles are the best ones. The Aurora's crystalline structure hummed as it adapted to their calculations. Outside, the Shadari net was nearly complete. Dozens of dark ships hung in space around them, weapons ready. Initiating frequency shift in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to blur around them as the Aurora surged forward. Sarah's stomach lurched as they passed through the Shadari formation, their shields perfectly out of phase with the enemy's disruption field. For a crucial moment, they were essentially invisible to the hostile ships. By the time the Shadari realized what had happened, the Aurora was already accelerating away from Jupiter, racing toward the stars. That, Zenith observed while bringing their systems back to normal operating frequencies, was an elegant solution. My people would have spent days trying to calculate a way around the blockade. Sometimes you need fresh eyes on a problem, Sarah replied, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. The Shadari made the same mistake. They're so focused on energy manipulation at the quantum level, they forgot about basic wave mechanics. A very human insight. Zenith's mental voice carried clear admiration. Finding complexity in simplicity, and simplicity in complexity. Their moment of triumph was interrupted by new alerts. The Shadari were in pursuit again, and their weapons were charged. We're still too far from Proxima Centauri, Zenith reported. Even at maximum speed, we can't. We're not going to Proxima Centauri, Sarah interrupted, a new idea forming. The Shadari will expect that. They'll have forces waiting at every major communication hub. She pulled up the ship's star charts, but I'm betting they won't expect us to go straight to the source. Zenith's light flickered with surprise. The Lumini homeworld? That's deep in contested space. The plague is worse there, and the Shadari fleet is spread thin trying to maintain their blockade. Sarah finished. They never expected anyone to discover a cure, so they focused on containment. But now, she gestured at her research data. We don't just have a theory anymore. We have proof. Your recovery proves it works. If we can reach your homeworld, demonstrate the cure directly. It would bypass their information quarantine entirely. Zenith's light pulsed faster. But the journey will be dangerous. Our ship is damaged. Our resources limited. Sarah thought of her comfortable lab back on Earth, of all the safe choices she could have made. Then she thought of millions of Lumini, their light slowly fading, waiting for hope. Your people have a saying about impossible odds. Several, Zenith replied. Though most lose something in translation. Well, we humans have one that fits this situation perfectly. Sarah began plotting their course to the Lumini homeworld. Fortune favors the bold. As the Aurora turned toward deep space, Sarah felt a fierce joy rising in her chest. She was about to attempt something no human had ever done. Navigate an alien civil war to save a species she'd only just met. But wasn't that exactly what humanity did best? Push boundaries, defy expectations, and refuse to accept impossible odds. The Shadari were about to learn another lesson about humans. We don't just solve problems. We turn problems into opportunities. And sometimes, the most dangerous course of action is exactly the right one. The cure. The Lumini homeworld hung in space like a cracked crystal, its once pristine surface now dulled by the plague. Sarah had thought she was prepared for what she would see, but the reality stole her breath away. Entire continents of crystalline structures were darkened, their natural luminescence fading to shadow. How many? She whispered, unable to take her eyes off the dying world. 2 billion on the surface. Zenith's mental voice was heavy with grief. Another billion in orbital habitats, all infected, all fading. The science officer's own light pulsed weakly. The closer they got to the homeworld, the stronger the plague's effect became. The Aurora's sensors showed Shadari warships in high orbit, but they were scattered, spread thin, trying to maintain their quarantine. Just as Sarah had predicted, they never expected anyone to target the heart of the infection. The central matrix, Zenith, indicated a massive crystalline structure that dominated the planet's northern continent. It connects every lumini on the planet, originally designed to share knowledge and energy. Now it's spreading the plague. Sarah finished, examining her readings. But that also means we can use it to distribute the cure. She pulled up her completed research on her tablet. A single strong enough dose of human-generated bioelectric energy, properly modulated to match lumini physiology, would cascade through the entire network. Zenith's light flickered with hope, then concern. But the amount of energy required, it would take hundreds of human donors. Or one, Sarah said quietly, willing to give everything. Zenith's light pulsed with alarm. No, the strain would kill you. Maybe, probably, but it would work. Sarah showed Zenith her calculations. My research shows that at the moment of transition, human bioelectric fields spike dramatically. If I were connected to the matrix at that moment, the energy release would be enough to jumpstart the entire system. You're talking about sacrificing yourself. Zenith's mental voice was sharp with distress. I cannot allow. It's not your choice to allow or disallow. Sarah interrupted gently. This is what humans do, Zenith. When we see a way to help, even at great cost to ourselves, we help. It's what makes us human. The ship shuddered as they began their descent through the atmosphere. Shadari patrol ships were already moving to intercept, but they were too slow, too spread out. The Aurora's crystalline structure groaned under the strain of re-entry, its systems pushed to their limits. There are other options, Zenith insisted while executing evasive maneuvers. We could try to gather more humans, set up a proper medical facility. Look at your world, Sarah gestured at the dying crystal cities below them. Your people don't have time for proper facilities. They barely have time at all. She checked her medical readings. Your own light is fading faster the closer we get. The plague is stronger here. At its source, we have one chance to do this, and it has to be now. They landed hard in a plaza outside the central matrix, the Aurora's shields barely deflecting the scattered weapons fire from the few Shadari ground forces present. Through the viewport, Sarah could see Lumini civilians staring at their ship in wonder, their once bright forms now dim and ghostly. Your species, Zenith said softly, is either the bravest or the most foolish I have ever encountered. Why not both? Sarah began connecting her medical equipment to her tablet, making final adjustments to her calculations. Zenith, listen carefully. After the transfer, my research data needs to reach Earth. Humanity should know what happened here, and why. And we should know we're not alone in the universe. The science officer's light pulsed with complex emotions. You would trust my people with knowledge of Earth's location. Even after seeing what the Shadari, I trust that any species capable of appreciating sacrifice will understand its responsibility to honor it. Sarah finished her preparations and stood. Ready? They emerged from the Aurora into chaos. Shadari forces were converging on their position, but they were being slowed by something unexpected. The Lumini civilians. Even in their weakened state, the crystalline beings were interfering with the attackers, using their bodies to block paths, and their remaining energy to disrupt weapons. They're protecting us, Sarah realized as they ran toward the Matrix. They don't even know why we're here, but they're helping. Hope, Zenith replied, supporting her as they crossed the plaza, is a powerful motivator, something else our species have in common. The central matrix was a spire of pure crystal that stretched up into the darkening sky. Its surface was etched with countless connections, each one linking to a Lumini life. Up close, Sarah could see how the plague had infected it, turning its once bright lattices dull and lifeless. The connection chamber is at the base. Zenith guided her through an entrance that seemed to form itself from the crystal. But Sarah, please, there must be another. A Shadari energy blast struck the ground near them, sending crystalline shards flying. Sarah felt a sharp pain in her side, but kept moving. They were too close to stop now. The connection chamber was a spherical space at the heart of the matrix. Crystalline tendrils hung from the ceiling like optical fibers, each one pulsing weakly with the combined life force of billions of lumini. At the center was a simple platform, designed for a single being to interface with the entire network. Sarah stepped onto the platform, ignoring the pain in her side. How do I connect? Dr. Chen. Sarah. Zenith's light was pulsing with distress. You must understand what you mean to me, to us. In just days, you have shown us more about courage, about sacrifice, about what it means to truly live than we have learned in centuries. Then learn from this too, Sarah said softly as crystal tendrils began to descend around her. Learn that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from grand plans but from simple choices, from seeing someone in need and choosing to help. The tendrils touched her skin, and Sarah gasped as she felt the connection form. It was like being linked to every lumini at once, feeling their fear, their pain, their fading light. But she could also feel their hope, sparked by her presence, by the simple fact that someone had come to help. Goodbye, Zenith, she whispered. Tell humanity I said hello. Sarah Chen closed her eyes and opened herself completely to the connection. Her consciousness expanded through the matrix, touching every lumini mind, every crystalline structure, every particle of their world. She felt the plague trying to drain her energy, but she had one advantage it hadn't counted on. Humans, when pushed to their limits, when giving everything they had for something they believed in, could generate power beyond any rational calculation. As her heart began to fail, as her synapses fired their last, Sarah poured everything she was into the network. Her knowledge, her memories, her hopes, her dreams, and most importantly, her understanding of what it meant to be human, to help without hesitation, to give without reservation, to face impossible odds with determination and ingenuity. The last thing she heard was Zenith's mental voice, filled with awe, as the matrix began to pulse with renewed light, brighter than it had ever been before. Goodbye, life giver. Your light will shine in us forever. New dawn. 5 years later. The crystalline amphitheater of the Galactic Council hummed with energy as Ambassador James Martinez adjusted his ceremonial robes. After years of preparation and negotiation, humanity was about to take its place among the stars. He touched the small crystal pendant at his throat, a gift from Zenith, containing a fraction of Sarah Chen's last memories. Nervous? Zenith's familiar mental voice carried a note of amusement. The Lumini Science Officer's light now pulsed with the unique dual frequency that all their species had developed after Sarah's sacrifice, part their original crystalline resonance, part human bioelectric pattern. Terrified, James admitted. Hard to believe it's only been 5 years since Sarah Chen had given her life to save an alien civilization, since humanity had learned they weren't alone in the universe in the most dramatic way possible, since everything had changed. The memories stored in James's pendant flickered, Sarah's last moments, preserved by the Matrix and shared with humanity as a testament. Her final gift hadn't just been the cure for the plague. In linking herself to every lumini through the Matrix, she had shared something far more precious, the fundamental experience of being human. The Council is ready, a Lumini aide announced, their light pulsing with the same dual frequency. The change was visible in all their structures now, crystalline cities that glowed with both their natural luminescence and a new, more dynamic energy pattern. James entered the council chamber, where representatives from 100 species waited. The Shadari seats were conspicuously empty. Their attempted genocide of the Lumini had led to their isolation from galactic society. But James wasn't focused on empty seats. He was focused on what Sarah's actions had made possible. Representatives of Earth, the council speaker's mental voice resonated through the chamber. 5 years ago, a single human chose to help a dying stranger. That choice revealed not only a cure for the dimming but something far more valuable, the true potential of your species. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing scenes from the years since Sarah's sacrifice. Lumini ships arriving at Earth, sharing technology and knowledge. Human medical researchers working alongside crystalline scientists, discovering that the unique properties of human biology could revolutionize energy production, healing, and even faster than light travel. The integration of human bioelectric patterns with Lumini crystalline technology has opened new frontiers in science. The speaker continued. But more importantly, your species has demonstrated a quality that this council now recognizes as essential to galactic civilization: the capacity to give without reservation, to help without hesitation, and to face the unknown with both courage and compassion. James felt Zenith's presence beside him, supporting him as he had supported Sarah in those final moments. The Lumini scientist had become Earth's strongest advocate, sharing the complete records of Sarah's journey and sacrifice with anyone who would listen. Therefore, by unanimous decision of this council, Earth is hereby granted full membership in the galactic community, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The speaker's light pulsed with formal ceremony. Furthermore, in recognition of Dr. Sarah Chen's sacrifice, the Council has approved the establishment of the Chen Institute for Interspecies Medicine, to be jointly operated by human and Lumini researchers. James stepped forward to accept Earth's formal credentials, but his mind was on the changes the last 5 years had brought. Humanity had gained the stars, yes, but they had also gained something more precious: the knowledge that their fundamental nature, their instinct to help others even at great cost to themselves, was actually their greatest strength. She would have loved this, Zenith observed as they left the council chamber. All these species working together, learning from each other. It's what she died for. No, James corrected gently, touching his pendant. It's what she lived for. To help, to heal, to push boundaries. She showed everyone, human and alien alike, what one person's choice to help could accomplish. They paused at a viewport, looking out at the crystalline spires of the council station. Each one now pulsed with the dual frequency that marked Sarah's legacy, not just a cure for a plague, but a fundamental change in how species could interact and grow together. You know, Zenith's light pulsed with what James had learned to recognize as humor. There are still some council members who believe humans are too unpredictable, too willing to take risks, to be trusted with advanced technology. They're probably right, James smiled. We are unpredictable. We do take risks, but that's exactly why the galaxy needs us. Someone has to be willing to take those first steps, to reach out across the void, to choose to help even when it seems impossible. A ship was launching from the station, the first joint human-Lumini medical vessel, staffed by doctors of both species. Its hull was a revolutionary combination of crystalline technology and human bioelectric interfaces, allowing it to travel faster and heal more effectively than anything that had come before. To Sarah, Zenith said softly, a traditional Earth gesture the Lumini had adopted, the life-giver who taught us all what it truly means to shine. To Sarah, James agreed, watching the ship disappear into the stars. And to every human who chooses to help, to heal, to push the boundaries of what's possible, may we always be worthy of her legacy. The ship's wake left a trail of crystalline energy, pulsing with both Lumini and human frequencies, a visible reminder that the greatest discoveries come not from conquest or competition, but from the simple, human choice to reach out and help someone in need. In the years to come, humanity would face many challenges as they took their place among the stars. But they faced them knowing that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability or even their courage. It was their fundamental nature. Their willingness to give everything they had to help others, their determination to solve impossible problems, and their unshakable belief that one person's choice to do the right thing could change the universe. Sarah Chen had proved it, and in doing so, she had given humanity the greatest gift of all: the knowledge that being human, with all our contradictions and complications, was exactly what the galaxy needed.